you could blow my shit, bro. I was like, oh, this team's about that. So like, I gotta give them that respect. That's why they're at 2 for me. And of course, number one, you know it's the Birds, baby. Like all day, every day, bro. Like, come on now. All these teams that are listed below, we've already beat them. You know what I mean? Besides the Seahawks, we haven't played the Colts yet. It's like I'm gonna give my like this is now where we gotta start like giving the respect. I understand there's the struggles, I understand there's the hardships and everything, but it's like you gotta admit now with this game, we were able to at least slowly get more and more away from that situation. The defense saved the game, but hey, Joey and I can agree one thing: defense wins championships. So that's where we at.
Stop you there, Danny. Let me just ask you this: how are the Eagles winning these games? Like they're not pretty, right? But what's the key here? They're winning, right?
They're winning.
Yeah. So no matter what, they're finding ways to win. So if you're trying to like belittle them at all, just look in the mirror, man. You're just trying to push a narrative that's not true.
It's like, to me, it's one of those things, right? For example, right? It's like okay, so you know what, Scotty? Let's talk about the Rams, bro.
Is there a question coming?
No, let's talk about the Rams, Scotty. Okay, chat. Get this shit live. Okay.
Are we going Rams Seahawks? Is that where this is
going?
Yeah,
we're going to talk about Rams. We're going to talk about Rams, just point blank, period. Okay?
Rams Eagles.
So with me for the Rams, okay, well, guess me. They have had 2 big-time significant games, i.e. the Eagles and the Seahawks now. And this Seahawks team, Scott, you've said like before, and you don't believe in Sam Darnold, you don't believe in all this in between. My thing is, you just barely squeezed it out, beating the Seahawks, and you allowed it earlier in the season against the Eagles. And there has been numerous other games where they have a hard time putting the ball, like just stop it on the throat, slamming the gas, running with the game. And that was one point that you said with the Eagles, that you're saying if that consistency doesn't show, how in the hell can you go into the playoffs against playoff football? Mind you, Stafford's had the experience. We agree. I know that. But how can you go into the playoffs into situations where you can't, end it? Like, call it. You're ahead. You're in it. Get out of the way. But no, it's like the defense allows the game to happen and the offense can't stomp on the throat. And the Rams have done that numerous times. So it's like that's where I really I'm curious about that.
So what you want to know is what I trust more about the Rams in close playoff games compared to the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champs, who have for me, I will do that. I've got it. I've got it.
The team that beat them this year.
Saquon has ran for over like 200 yards 3 games in a row on them.
As you always like to talk about Sam Darnold and how the Rams defensive coordinator owns them, guess who owns the Rams? The Eagles. So justify that, Scott.
So the question was, why do I like the Rams #1 over the Eagles? As they've stated, the Eagles have defeated the Rams earlier in the season, the Buccaneers earlier in the season, the Chiefs earlier in the season, the Packers, and the Lions. That is the most elite wins. Teams, of the top, even I would say 7 teams, especially talent and potential wise, at some point in the season were ranked up through there. I have mentioned in the past how that ugly, loss to the Giants sticks in my brain as it always does. And what I've sort of grown from since the Giants game is I do think at least the team has like a lot more on defense now, whereas I feel like if they had that defense versus the Giants and they didn't have Jalen Carter in that game, like it's not as bad, with all of the context and seeing what they have now. That loss doesn't hurt as bad. So I will give the Eagles credit for that, and they are my #2 team. I do think they would, if they won the NFC Championship instead of the Rams, I do think they would be whoever came out of the AFC. I do believe that, because the way the Eagles finish games is with their run game, their defense being able to shut the door, something the Rams haven't done. But what the Rams I trust a lot more in is in those comeback situations. That's something we haven't seen from the Eagles in any playoff game. Hold on. The Eagles
against the Rams. 26-7, they came back and won. What are you talking about?
Did you hear my point? they did not come back versus them in the playoffs. That's not something we've seen from the Eagles at any point in any of the playoff games. They've been leading through all their playoff games, and typically when they have these winning streaks, they're dominating time of possession, and they score early, and they do a good job of these things, and that's why they are so good. But I think they can't jump out ahead. Like, we saw the Rams come out and score 2 touchdowns against the Seahawks, and we're talking like that's bad. Like, if it was 7 points through the first 3 quarters and 14, I would like that too. I would like that more, but I think he can do that too. I think if he needed to do that, Stafford and the Rams, they would be able to do that. With the passing game that they have and that they lean on, I think it's a lot more effective and reliable in terms of, like, you have an answer to anything. When with the run game and the Eagles, like, Lane Johnson just went down, like, I understand they still look really good, but it's just like, how many shots can this Eagles team take? They are very resilient. They're very deep, but I'm just wondering, like, they're taking more this year than they have last year. So it's just, I don't think they are who they were last year, which is, kind of the core of this. The Eagles, I think they're a little bit worse than they were last year. And I thought the 2 best teams that played last year in the playoffs were the Rams and Eagles. That was the best playoff game last year. And it was the 2 best teams. And here we are now. The Rams, what they've proven to me since then is that you forgot one of their critical games, Dan. They did play the Colts, and they shut down, not really shut down, but they contained Jonathan Taylor to the point that he did not beat them in that game. And that's like, Saquon Barkley, similar sort of thing. In that game, they really contained him. That's not happening like it did last year. So that's what they're proving to me so far in the regular season. Does the late game defense, the corners being light and, easy to beat with, physical wide receivers, does that scare me? Yeah, it does. And so do, having all those special teams errors in the end of the game versus the Eagles. Conversely, the Eagles, a lot of these elite wins have come off of those special teams, and, like, how repeatable is that stuff compared to, like, Stafford and the passing game is kind of the root of my confidence in the Rams.
That Rams game that you mentioned beforehand, the Eagles had, I think, I was watching it live, like 6 muffed kick returns. Like, Tank Bigsby could not, he was bobbling shit, and they started almost every single drive from, like, the 15, and the 10 at the most. So it's like there was a tremendous amount of, like, special team errors that we've had, and, like, again, we were behind that game 26-7 at the beginning of the half, and that's when all of the special team errors were happening. So I guess that's where, to me, it's just like the Rams, like, for example, you said, like, the Eagles never had a good, like, comeback situation, but it's like
playoffs.
The Rams in the playoffs, when they played us and they needed to come back, they couldn't do that either.
We were very, very close. Come on now. You were sweating.
So we're giving credit now for being close. So why can't Seattle get the credit?
No, because I gave Seattle credit. I moved them up 3 spots. I moved them up 3 spots after a loss. So I did apply that. I have never moved someone up after a loss, I don't think, yet. Go ahead.
So that's why I guess, to me, too, it's just like, for example, like, I know we're talking about, like, so it's like the playoff situation. I get that. But you brought up the Colts beforehand. They were able to contain Jonathan Taylor. And it's like the Colts made, again, like, one mistake, and Tutu Atwell just won it with a game-winning drive. And it's one of those things where it's like you would never have to be in those situations if, again, the defense, yes, contained Jonathan Taylor, but you contained the one player.
Game.
Say that again?
Daniel Jones had 2 picks there, and they were still close in the game.
Yeah, they lost by a touchdown.
Yeah. And it's like, usually when you get 2 picks, for example, it's like when we got 2 picks on the Lions, or when we got a pick on the Lions and then contained them, we were up by 2 scores the whole game. So right there, you're just like, whatever, stress-free. But it's like,
I mean, I think you guys are underestimating one thing about the Rams, which is my fault for not talking about it enough, and that's their defense this year. Like, I did kind of hint at it with how they contain the running backs, but they're the second best. They're tied with the Broncos in EPA for defense. They're ranked 2nd in the NFL. And having that with Stafford and McVay on this offense is just something I'm not sure exists on any other team in the NFL this year, because I know the Eagles have a great defense, but it's Jalen Hurts in this offense and Kevin Patullo. And then with the Broncos, it's how's the mind meld between Sean Payton and Bo Nix. And then with the Texans, we know their offense is broken. Like, And this Rams team, like their crucial flaw heading into this year was the run defense, and it appears that's not an issue anymore. In fact, their defense is a stronger part of their team than their offense has been recently. But I would honestly bet, if you guys keep saying about all these other teams, give it time, give these guys time, give Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford time, and they'll make just as much out of it as anyone else, just as much as Reed and Mahomes. They will make that much out of it. And I don't think other quarterbacks and coaches are on that tier. And I think it's easier for the Rams to clean up special teams issues than it is for the Eagles to clean up their offensive struggles.
The Rams won it.
I guess to me, the only thing that gets me agitated, right, about this whole McVay thing and Matthew Stafford, while like love those guys, think they're freaking fantastic duo and everything, it's like Matthew Stafford, right? Let's be for real, won his first Super Bowl with Cooper Kupp, Odell when he was still functional. Mm-hmm. What's it called? A solid ass O line. The running back at the time, the running back at the time was Todd Gurley still. Gurley. No, it was like Blake Corum, right, or something like that.
It was Cam Akers.
Yeah,
Cam Akers. Yes, Cam Akers
off the Achilles.
Off the Achilles, and then their defense was Aaron Donald,
Jalen Ramsey,
Von Miller,
Jalen
Ramsey.
I think was Bobby Wagner on their team too.
Bobby Wagner was on that team.
Yeah, it was.
So my thing is, right, it's like the Eagles get so much ish. You need to build a super team. You need to do this. You need to do that. The Rams legitimately at that time had one of the most broken teams.
Yeah, it was
in that year.
No, it was probably the most broken team since the Brady Bucks team. It was right after another like loaded team. It was after
Danny.
That's what I'm saying. Like after that year, and now we come to this situation with the Eagles. In this situation, and it's like we're loaded up. We got it situated. The Rams are like, oh yeah, we're picking it up, and everything in between. And it's just like the Eagles. I guess that Rams team was like, oh my god, Stafford's amazing. There's that and the third, whatever the case is. The Rams are crazy. They broke that apart, and it's like they haven't been able to like reach that level. And I know you said beforehand, like, oh, the Eagles team last year, does not look like this same team this year. But now it's like that Rams team that we saw in the Super Bowl definitely is not the same team that we see here. But you look at them and you're like, that's the team I like. That team is solid. It's just like we don't know. Just like we don't know with this Eagles team that has changed, but is still able to consistently win and came back against them.
And because of that, Danny, that's why I feel like you have to give the edge to the Eagles because they won the head-to-head game. I think it's ridiculous to put the Rams above them. You guys came back 26-7 and beat them. Like, what's the justification there? Because we're both we're both asking for the same thing here of giving them time.
There's like 2 points here. There's 2 points here, right?
Okay.
Is this Rams team the same caliber as the one that won the Super Bowl, and then like how they match up against the Eagles, into the playoffs? What's the second one? What's the second question here?
The second question was, it's like, so now that you looked at the Eagles team and you stated like, oh, this team doesn't look like as strong as that team.
Yeah.
How can you look at the Rams and be like, oh, like that team that they won the Super Bowl with is definitely not the team that they have now. So what makes you look at these two teams that definitely don't have the same caliber team they had when they won the Super Bowl and be like, after the Eagles beat them, be like, the Rams are it. The Rams got it.
So
Matthew Stafford.
So the Rams, as I said, we're talking about they had a super team, right? They had the best team in the league that year from a roster standpoint, and the coach and quarterback. So obviously they had the best shot to win the Super Bowl. But like I just said, like they have this, they're second in EPA on defense, and then on offense they're 8th. Now the Lions are 7th on offense, and they are 5th on defense. So they're like kind of like a comparable team archetype. But I think I trust the Rams offense a lot more than the Lions based on what we've seen, especially like comparing in the Eagles game, and then same thing with the defense. But back to the questions here, like I understand that they don't have like Aaron Donald anymore, and they don't have Jalen Ramsey. But the bottom line is the production they're putting out is of a best defense in the NFL and a defense that has, done some things we haven't seen other teams do this year. What did they just do to the Seahawks offense? They just made Sam Darnold throw 4 interceptions after everyone was trying to put them as the best team in the NFL and say, he was the MVP and all this kind of stuff, and that Sammy D would never return. And I'm saying this Rams team and Chris Shula has his number, and they figured it out. So I get they don't have the names. But this defense is playing to that caliber, and the offense they've got just as much talent as they've ever had. They have Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. This offensive line is healthy. They have an assortment of running backs. I don't see any reason outside of like some lingering injury that doesn't seem to be there for Matthew Stafford to hold this offense back. And I don't know why you guys don't see that, because when I look at what the Eagles are this year compared to last year, until they made these trades on defense, they haven't looked the same. They really haven't. And the way that they're winning these games, like I said, is not something that I see like, oh, I feel good about that going into the playoffs. No, I feel good about Matthew Stafford in the Super Bowl when he had this loaded roster, but they needed him to go down and score a go-ahead touchdown, and he got it. And he got it done. That trash Bengals defense got to the Super Bowl, and as much as I trashed them, it wasn't because of the defense. It was because of their offensive line. That's why they lost that Super Bowl. That defense played well. No, Joe Burrow got sacked like 70 times that season. Nobody's ever got sacked 50 times and made it to a Super Bowl. So I'm pretty sure it was them. What do you mean nobody cares? It's just a fact about what happened.
It's just a simple fact. No one remembers the loser.
We're talking. No one remembers the loser. We're talking about how far you can get. It's relevant. It is relevant if you make it to the Super Bowl, even if you lose. The thing
here is like you talk about, you mentioned again how the Rams have Sam Darnold's number, but you don't give credit to the Eagles for owning the Rams. And that's what we're kind of talking about here is the Eagles.
I'm projecting. I'll say I'm projecting. It's not like something that's happened yet, but I'm projecting this playoffs that this Rams team is going to show up and they're going to be better than the Eagles this time. And I don't think it's really that crazy when you consider what the Eagles have gone through. They just went all the way to the Super Bowl. That's a long season. And then the way they started this year. So all the stress and the anxiety, they're not as locked in as they were last year. They made these trades. Yeah, they have the talent. But can they do it 2 years in a row? I'm not going to say they can't, but there was a 2023. There was a collapse after last Super Bowl. So, I don't see why, the only reason the Rams have ever collapsed is because of injuries and Stafford and things like that. With the Eagles, Hurts was banged up. They had a bunch of injuries on their defense.
I also look at the mental aspect. When you lose the Super Bowl, that's definitely very, very hurtful going into the following season.
I think I would rather. I guess winning versus losing the Super Bowl. To me, it's you could go either way with both of those ways. I can quickly lay out both points of view. But my point is you are playing until February. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
You're playing till February. You have only a month or two before you have to get ready for the next season. That's really what it's mostly about. But when it comes to winning or losing the Super Bowl, I don't know. I always kind of imagine that losing it would motivate you to get back there, whereas winning it would be you went out and partied, and that's where the metaphor of hangover comes from, because you made it to the Super Bowl. And so you're content and complacent going into the next season. You think you could do it again. Whereas if you lose, you've been humbled in the most powerful way you really could be. So I think to an extent, Hurts said it himself how much that moved him to continue to motivate the team until this day. He still thinks about it. So I think it was a good thing for him.
Either way, I think it's time we move on from this topic.
I agree.
We're just not gonna. We're not going to agree.
We're not going to agree. You're right, but I think it was a good conversation. So we've talked about the Rams and we've talked about the Eagles. Do we want to talk about the Seahawks?